Okay, hello and welcome. I'm so happy to have you join. I'm really excited about offering this webinar. My name is Lynn Curry and I'm a McNair director at Central Michigan University. I've been working with McNair scholars for, it's about 15 years. So time flies. And so what I'd like to share with you today is the importance of making self-care part of your academic journey. And honestly, this is something that we really started talking about in a more deliberate, serious way back in, say, 2010. And I know that as busy students, you have a lot on your plate, no matter at what point in the process you're at. If you're an undergraduate student, if you're a graduate student, getting ready to defend your dissertation, all those things. So we know that as busy students that you are dealing with a lot and that you are probably experiencing stress. And so in response to that, one of the things that I came up with, just because yoga has been a really great thing for me in terms of stress management, I started exposing our scholars to yoga as a tool to help them basically become relaxed and more focused. And so it really just kind of grew from there. And it's really become my passion in terms of helping our students really think about how this can make a difference for them, and really help them be better students, right? And so my intention here is really to spread the message. So I'm on a mission. And so I'm really happy to have you tuning in today. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and get started. So the title, as you can see, is Foundation of Strength. And that really is what I think self-care can be. When you are making a concentrated effort to really just take care of yourself, you're creating this foundation for yourself where everything becomes that much better. And that's going to be really my main argument throughout this webinar with you today. So what I'd like to do is just take a few moments and do a little exercise. And so what I'd like you to do, and I don't know where you might find yourself, but if you can just kind of uncross your legs, make sure that your feet are grounded on the floor, and just kind of sit upright. And you can close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. If not, that's fine. Just kind of do sort of a gaze, right? So not that you're like intensely focused on something, but just let your eyes gaze upon something, okay? And just come into your breath, okay? Just for a moment, stop. And just feel where you are. Feel your body, feel your breath. Maybe you've been running around from thing to thing. Maybe you're just waking up. Maybe it's late at night. But just stop and get a sense of where you're at. Just notice anything that comes up. Try not to have any sort of judgment about it. Might feel strange just to stop and breathe. That's okay. Take a deep breath and then let it out. Do that again. Just notice. Okay, one more time. Take a deep breath. Let it out. Okay, you can open your eyes. How do you feel? Okay, that takes a lot for me to actually do that on camera, just so you know. So you're welcome. I'm getting better at it. I'm making myself do it more often. But my whole point is, how often do we actually stop and just let ourselves notice how we're feeling, right? And I mean, you don't have to like sit and close your eyes, but just sitting and like not doing anything, not checking your phone, not thinking about what you need to do next or like what just happened, but actually just taking a pause, right? Take pause and just notice how you're feeling. Okay, just noticing your body. Your breath is just like the best anchor. It's always there. It's going on no matter what. And just using your breath as a focal point for you to just be like, how am I doing? Okay, so I would invite you to use this little exercise that we did, take pause, if you will, and do that a couple of times during your day. Like before you like get up and start racing, toward whatever you need to get going for your day, take a few moments and do that. Maybe after lunch, instead of, before you go to class or, get back into studying, take a few moments, get yourself grounded, see where you're at. After dinner would be good. And even before bed, that's a great time, right? Just taking a few moments and just kind of seeing where you're at, because the information that you can collect from doing that little exercise can help inform decisions that you make in terms of your self-care, in terms of the work that you're doing as students. So that's my invitation at this point for you. Okay, and again, it's like, how often do we really do that? Probably not that often. And it doesn't take a lot of time, and it can have a lot of great ramifications. So, and what are some of the basic stressors that we're dealing with as busy students, right? I observe our scholars all the time, and the classes that they are taking, the amount of credits that they're taking. It used to be that you could just take 12 credits and graduate in 4 years. And now if you're not taking 15 to 18 credits and having this immense stress, in many cases, students are working on top of this. Hard classes, papers, presentations, you're probably involved in different RSOs. We've got a lot of scholars that are, part of Res Life, that are just really active on campus. There's a lot going on, right? And you know that. So, just kind of taking in and just being like, okay, what is it that I do have at hand? I've got all these things going on, right? And then you can even add in more things, right? It's like, depending on maybe, one thing that I hear just so much of is, from students of color that deal with a whole extra layer of things, whether it's, things they hear from other students or, just being treated certain ways. And, that just creates another whole layer. Family can be another thing. A lot of our students just have family issues, right? You might be worried about your family. They might be causing you stress because they're on your case. Something might be going on that's really serious that you need to be tending to, but you're in school, and so you feel this pull, and maybe you're not close to them physically or emotionally. So there's all sorts of things, right? So point is, we all know that we have a lot of stress. Absolutely. And then, of course, it's the long-term, how about let's figure out our lives? I'm in my mid-40s, and I'm still trying to do that. So, by the way, you're okay. But certainly, right, you wanna try to be, proactive in terms of making good choices in your educational careers so that you can actually do work that matters, that's going to be meaningful, that's going to have an impact, that's going to make money. And so, I know that there's just a lot of worry and anxiety of like, am I doing the right thing? Am I making the right choices? And how is this all going to work out? So we all experience stress. And the key really is how we choose to approach the stress. See, I'm getting all stressed. And here's the secret, really. And I think that it's just easy to kind of lose track of this, is that we actually do have the power to choose, right? And so it might feel like all these things swirling around. It's like, okay, you might feel like, okay, well, I don't have the power to choose whether or not I take this test or do this paper or complete this thesis or whatever it is. But in reality, you did sign up for that. Okay. And so I just want to invite you to kind of think of it from that point of view, right? It's like all this stuff is there, and maybe you can't make everything go away right now, but you can make little choices in response to whatever it is that you're experiencing to at least try to let go of some things and to help make the situation better and less stressful for yourself so that you can actually function and feel okay and focused on whatever it is that you do need to be getting done, right? So we do have the power to choose. And this is my big thesis, if you will, is looking at self-care, how we take care of ourselves as an antidote to the stress, right? The stress is always going to be there. We can't control a lot of that stuff, okay? But looking at it as a way to tame it, if you will, right? And kind of dilute it. And really, it's the key to optimal functioning, right? How do you want to, I like to talk about operationalizing yourself. You know, how do you do that on a daily basis? And especially in the long term, this is the other thing. It's like, the sooner that you can kind of get into this realm of like, okay, this is something that I'm mindful about, that I'm thinking about, that this is a priority for me, even as a young person, you know, maybe you're, 18, 19 in your early 20s, even if you're whatever age, right? The sooner that you can kind of get into this idea of like, I need to take care of myself, the better, right? Because you're going to get better at it, and then you're going to get better at being more productive, and it's all just going to be better, 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 better. So what would optimal functioning actually look like for you? Well, I did some brainstorming, and how about waking up with a positive mindset, right? Instead of sort of the doom and gloom of like, oh my God, I have so much to do, right? It's like, how about just waking up and feeling like, okay, oh, I'm sorry about that. Okay. How about feeling excited, right? Even if you've got a lot going on and you've got a lot on your plate, you can still feel excited about what you're about to achieve in your day. Okay. Having a realistic game plan. I am super duper guilty about feeling like I can do like a million things or like 10 things in 5 seconds. And so one thing that I've really been trying to improve upon is crafting my schedule or my daily flow, if you will, so that I actually have some space and that I have a realistic to-do list. Okay. So that's something that you can think about. Being efficient, right, with your time management. Probably the better way to look at it is your energy management, right? When can you be most productive and doing the work that's most important during that time? That's a whole other webinar, right? That's a whole conversation to itself. But again, being highly productive. And this is the key, right? I think that we can like be busy and like feel like we're like, okay, we're doing a bunch of things. But I talk to a lot of PhD students, for instance, and many of them are working on their dissertation, for instance, and they'll tell me it's like, okay, well, I'm really good at like, getting the kitchen cleaned up, and I've got, maybe I'm doing more reading or like taking notes, but in terms of actual writing, right? So being able to have a plan and a mindset and just, feeling good enough so that you're like, okay, even though this is hard work, I might be nervous about doing it, I am going to, what do they say, eat the frog, right? Do your hardest things the first thing in the morning so that you get them done. And these are the things that need to be done so that you can actually make progress toward your long-term goals, right? Great if the kitchen is clean, but really if you want to finish your dissertation, like you need to write the thing. So yeah, so that's a hard one too, because, we can all kind of just fall into, just all the minutia around us that we do need to kind of tend to as well. So building in, optimal functioning is building in those habits that are going to support you. Okay. And I'm going to talk about it in just a few minutes, is like figuring out what that is, right? That's a big piece of it. And being able to just notice and be present enough with yourself to be able to determine like, okay, these are the things that I need. And then just feeling accomplished, right? Even if you haven't checked everything off of your to-do list, which again, if you make realistic to-do lists, maybe you can do that. But anyway, just being okay with what is, feeling at ease at the end of the day, no matter how it went, right? Even if you had a really hard, crappy day, and those things happen, it's amazing to me still that like one day you could be like on, everything's flowing. And the next day you're like, I'm off. Like, this is just like, everything's just a hardship. And it's like, isn't that crazy? And then just, again, having this feeling of like, okay, like today, no matter how it was, I am looking forward to tomorrow. So those are just some things that I came up with in terms of what does optimal functioning look like. So now I'd like you to just stop for a moment and think about what comes to mind when you think about self-care. maybe it's not even something that you think about. I know that it's more of a trend, and, it's more sort of in the mainstream of like, oh, we should talk about self-care, but I still think that there's a lot of, especially students, that don't necessarily like think of it as a thing, and that's cool. So just take a moment. What comes to mind when you think about self-care? So it's kind of funny. I read an article recently that was like, self-care is more than uh, bubble baths, right? I mean, taking a bubble bath and doing something special for yourself, absolutely, that's self-care. Getting your nails done, for those of you who like to do that, that might be, special time self-care. I always like to start with the basics. We all have to eat, we all have to sleep, we all should be moving our bodies. Those for me are like the non-negotiable self-care items. A lot of you might be spiritual persons, and so absolutely having a spiritual practice, whatever that might look like for you, that can also be a non-negotiable foundational piece for you that needs to happen, that helps you do everything better, right? Feeling connected. Friend time, that is self-care. I know we've got 3 kids, and like, I don't have time to just be like going out with my friends. I got to, set it up with Ken and, negotiate the setup and all of that. But I still try to make, find time to do that, because even if it's like these little snippets of like grabbing coffee with a friend, or just meeting, I've got a friend who's doing a residency. She's a doctor. And so we have a new juice place in town, and they have like these saunas. And so like, this is what we did. Like, we both figured out that we had like a few hours during the day. And so I took some personal time, and we went and sat in the sauna together for like 30 minutes. And then we got juices, and then we did yoga together. And that was like our little date. So it was great. So anyway, basically, self-care can mean so many different things to so many different people. But think of something that you did recently that you view as self-care. Okay, so bring something to mind. Maybe it was just a workout that you did yesterday. Okay, how did you feel when you did that? Okay, again, going back to this idea of actually being present when you are doing these things, right? And just taking notice of like, okay, I worked out. And so then afterwards I felt, and I'm just using myself as an example here, I felt relaxed and I felt focused. Okay. I felt empowered. Okay. Maybe you went out with a couple of friends. How did you feel? Like when you go out with friends and like you end up just like laughing so much that your cheeks hurt or your stomach hurts. We don't do that enough, right? Okay, so, just feeling like you kind of like have a glow after that, because again, it's like you're craving that connection and conversation and fun and just laughing. And so just being like, okay, that feels really good. Okay. So just noticing these things. So here is, again, going back to sort of the basics, if you will, of Eat, Sleep, Move. Back in 2010, when we started talking about this with our McNair scholars, it kind of evolved into, this was our slogan, Eat, Sleep, Move, McNair style. And so I just thought it'd be fun to share that with you. So self-care, different things, different people. My challenge to you is, and I've got a few challenges for you, is figuring out what self-care looks like to you. Okay. And also, start focusing on yourself, start focusing on your mind and your body, okay, with the same resolve that you have for like all of the other things that you're doing, right? I know that you're doing awesome work as students. I know that you're, just working really hard, trying really hard to get good grades in your classes and doing good work and, doing internships and all these things, right? So, kind of elevating, not kind of, I'm working on my own language, elevating, right, the status of yourself, to the same level of just going full out, if you will, right? Here it is. Elevate its status. Elevate the status of you. Okay, so it's on par with everything else that you've got going on. Okay, and also here, like I said, my challenge to you is to start making these connections, taking pause throughout your day and really just seeing like, oh, okay, if I actually ate maybe, a good breakfast of oatmeal and a banana, I felt better able to focus at my 9 o'clock class, or I stayed up really late and got crappy sleep and just rolled out of bed and went to class and grabbed some coffee. how did I feel in my 9 o'clock class, as an example, right? So again, making this argument of there is this really important connection with making choices that support your health and wellness and how productive you're able to be. You know, I mean, let's just face it, you know, we are in a culture of like, we have to be productive. It's all about being productive and like working all the time. And I would argue that we need to dial that back. So again, so we can insert this self-care piece so that you can be smarter with how you work and even work less. Okay, I'm going to say it. You know, if you are working smarter, maybe you don't have to spend 4 hours studying for an exam where you could, spend 2 because you have been more efficient and you have been taking care of yourself so that when you actually do sit down, you can just be more efficient, I guess is the best word, right? Because you're more focused, because you're more relaxed, you're able to learn better, right? And then just your general happiness. You know, if we feel better, we're going to be happier, right? No brainer. So think of it this way, okay? Making self-care your non-negotiable. Okay, that's a big term I use all the time. It's like, what are your non-negotiables? And just recognizing that it's worth it. Okay, so many times like students are like, I don't have time, Lynn. I don't have time to go for a run or, you know, even get up and like do a walk, you know? And I'm just like, again, the more that you can start to see these connections, you're going to be like, oh, it's worth it. If I take a break and take a 10-minute walk around campus and then come back to whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm going to be better at it. Okay. So just kind of like proving it to yourself, if you will. Okay. So how do you do that exactly? Right. So let's get down a little bit into that. Again, you know, you could break out a lot of these things and do separate webinars on all of them. But for me, I think it comes to, again, having the right sort of headspace about it and the mindset, and then having a basket of tools, if you will, right, that you can just pull out whenever you need them. And then this is related to figuring out what you need, but developing those habits, you know, and I'm really interested in I've been reading a ton of different books on habits and things like that, because I think that's just really a key in terms of helping our students really make these choices that are going to support them. So going back to, or starting with your mindset rather, so many times I think students actually feel like they feel guilty, right? So they're like, well, I don't have time. And if I do try to do something for myself, then I feel guilty because I should be doing other things. And I'm just going to put this out there that you are worthy of taking care of you. Okay. And taking care of you is not a bad thing, and you should not feel guilty. And I always joke about having my magic wand, because if I had my magic wand, I would wave it right now and say, just do it. Okay. And it's like anything, even if you're like, Lynn, I haven't really been doing self-care, that's okay. Start where you're at, because you can just do little things that if you are consistent about those grow into bigger things. So, and again, just knowing that you have the ability, you have the power to make these choices, okay? It really is up to you. And even if it feels like you're just always responding and reacting to everything around you, and like you're putting out this fire and you're dealing with this drama and you're, you know, oh my God, I got 3 tests and whatever it is, you can still stop, ground yourself, and make some choices and choose how you're going to proceed. Okay. And the thing of it is, and everyone says this, right? But let's just, you know, come together on this point, is that, you know, everyone does have the same amount of hours in a day, right? Oprah's got the same amount as we do. And, yeah, just, it's like, I just, you know, wish I had more time. I wish I had more time. But when you can stop fighting against that and just be like, time is what it is, right? And just realize that the more mindful you are about the choices and how you spend your time, I think the better the outcome. Absolutely. So developing that mindset. What are some tools? And again, this I need to bust out into a whole separate webinar, because you know, I feel it comes down to making self-care a priority, right? So again, self-knowledge, self-reflection, figuring out what it is that needs to happen in your schedule. Okay, so these are my priorities. I need to get an A in this class. I need to have this draft to my advisor by whatever date. and I need to work out 3 days a week, just as an example, right? So you have your 3 priorities, you've articulated them, you're being deliberate, okay? And then you need to plan, right? You need to plan. I'm always asking our scholars, what is your daily flow? What is your weekly flow? Because I want to see like where these things are going to fit, okay? And so if you're like, Lynn, I want to work out 3 days a week, well, when are you going to do that? And the less we can have to make decisions about it, right, that it just happens, the better. So if you are like, yeah, I've scheduled it and I go this day at this time, this day at this time, this day at this time, the more likely it is that it's going to happen. And again, we could go really much more further into that whole conversation. So this is just a teaser or snippet, just to get you thinking, right? Making it a priority, choosing, scheduling it, and then being persistent. So that means like if the day that you had yourself scheduled to work out and it just didn't happen, don't beat yourself up about it. Know that you can catch up on, Friday. So that's the next day that you had scheduled. It's okay. All right. But just think of it as a 3 Ps, right? You got to make it a priority. You got to plan it. And then you have to persist. Okay. That consistency piece. And I struggle with it too. Being consistent is always a challenge. Bottom line though, with these key habits, right? Knowing yourself, you decide what your habits are going to be, right? No one else. Okay. And that's part of it. Being mindful, making a decision, figuring this out for yourself, the better. However, may I recommend some baseline habits that I feel are pretty good ones. So going back to the basics, eat, sleep, move. What are some key eat habits? Eating a good breakfast. I'm constantly on the students. I'm like, did you eat breakfast today? And I'll like see one of them at like noon or even 2. And I'm like, did you eat anything today? And they're like, no. And I'm like, how are you even functioning? I mean, for me, I need to eat breakfast. So please, and I know that so many people are like, I just don't feel like eating in the morning. And, again, research is out there. Like eating breakfast is a good thing. Okay. Getting protein, even if you can get some fruit and even some veggies. I work out at CrossFit and like, some of my athlete type friends, they're like, this is their breakfast. It would be like 2 to 4 eggs with some spinach, with some protein like bacon and some toast with maybe some almond butter. Like that's their breakfast, right? And I mean, if they're training, obviously, might look different and you're like, Lynn, I don't have time to be like cooking up some eggs or whatever. But just for myself, as an example, I have hard-boiled eggs. I make hard-boiled eggs for the week. And so I bring 2 of them with me and I'll have an English muffin in the car when I'm driving the kids to school. And then when I get to the office, I'll have my eggs. So good protein. Healthy snacks. This is a big one too, super easy to bring a little bag of carrots with you. Almonds are good. Granola bars. Try to get granola bars though that are not like candy bars. Okay. So they are making ones that are like more high protein. This is the one that I try to get for the kids. But really just kind of look at the sugar content on that. So high protein granola bars are better if you can get those. Water. Okay. This is a big one. Here's my water bottle. Everyone who knows me knows that like literally this is like another limb. And it's funny because like only on rare occasions will I actually like leave it somewhere and I'm like, oh my God, where's my water bottle? Just because it's so like part of me. And so I put a little lemon essential oil in my water. I enjoy that. And I probably drink, I'm thinking probably at least 4 of these. I think this is an 18 ounce. Anyway, and it's easier for me to do that because I do, work out pretty consistently. So I'll get, a good amount of water in during my workout. And still at night though, I feel like I'm still drinking water, but I feel like I really honestly feel like a lot of our students are dehydrated. Okay. And so we have McNair water bottles for our scholars. And so we're like encouraging them to, just develop that habit. And I think, yeah, just do it. So just carrying a water bottle with you and then just being able to like refill it is the easiest way to go. Sleep habits. Okay. Such an important topic. I just met with one of our faculty research mentors yesterday who's like cutting edge leading researcher on screen time with kids. Super excited for the work that she's doing. And this day and age, right, we have to really think about how much we're on our computers, on whatever it is, right? For kids, it might be games or phones or whatever. And so I know that for me, it's much better if I can just get into my routine of, we get the kids down at like 8:30. I have to get up at 6. So realistically, like I need to be sleeping like at 10. So that means that I should just really not be on any sort of computer like from 9 to 10 and maybe just read, right? I know that as busy students, you're like, Lynn, I have no time to read besides my academic reading. But what if you could just read a few pages of a fun book at night instead of like watching the Netflix until whatever? And I will tell you that I'm not really into a ton of shows. I got hooked on This Is Us. Okay, yeah. So prime example, Lynn's like, oh, I'm just going to watch one episode. This is like 9 o'clock. Yeah, 1 o'clock in the morning later, 3 episodes later, I'm like, wow, okay, so then I'm up, and that obviously, impacts how I feel the next day, right? And so, again, even when you're like, slipping, it's don't beat yourself up. It is what it is, okay? And sometimes, yeah, I watched one episode, the first one, and then I maybe watched 8 on that Saturday following. Yeah, 8. I think it was even maybe 9. I like ignored the children. I was like, get out of my bedroom. I'm watching my show. So that was like a lot of screen time. So going to sleep at the same time, I know that this is super hard, especially for like when you're having to stay up late and do papers and study for tests and all that stuff. I get it. But again, if you just Google any of the sleep research out there, having that consistent bedtime. And I will tell you that for me, I sort of have this opposite problem of like, I can be pretty good during the week, but then on the weekend, you're still like supposed to just, get up at around the same time, and I will sleep in sometimes, and then I feel like I'm sleeping too much. Okay, because I'm like, oh, I want to do that because I have to freaking get up every single day. So, just something to like really be thinking about. And then again, I know that some of our students might be like, oh, I can get by in like 5 hours, 6 hours, and again, if you look at the research, it's a really small percentage of people that really don't need the 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And for me, I think I'm more of a 9-hour a night type, in terms of my need. And there's ways to actually, kind of figure that out for yourself. But okay, so suffice it to say, sleep is a big one. And I know it's a challenge, but you got to deal with it. Okay, exercise. One of the first things that we give our students is a book called Spark. It's written by an MD, and it talks about how exercise is good, not just for your body, but for your brain. And so you guys are in higher education, you're looking to pursue advanced degrees. And so you really need to like take care of your brain. So I love that I can use this as my argument of, you need to be working out, okay? And like anything, if you are really sedentary at this point in time, doing a 10-minute walk once a day would be a great place to start, okay? But I'm up in it, man. Because I'm like, listen, this needs to happen. Again, you know that you need to do this. And the biggest challenge is figuring out what you like and what is going to work logistically for you. And I'll talk to students and they're like, okay, well, they're going to go to the student activity center or whatever. And, some of them don't have cars, and then some of them might not be super motivated once they go there. And so for me, I have to work out during the lunch hour. Okay, we've got kids, I've got a job, all this stuff. If it doesn't happen during the lunch hour, it's not going to happen. And so even though sometimes it's really hard because I'm like, okay, it's like 10 to noon and I still haven't left for the gym because I'm trying to like finish something up work-wise, I know that I need to just stop. And it's better when I give myself enough space to actually get to the gym so I can stretch for 5 minutes before class. But once I do it, I know that I feel great afterwards, right? I feel the best in the afternoon after I've done my workout, the endorphins, and I can feel focused and relaxed. And that is really when I do a lot of my great work. But just making that choice for me too, like I know that if I'm like by myself and someone's not telling me what to do, like I'm not going to do it either. So like I need to go to a group fitness class. I go to CrossFit It's just a great community of people, right? Here, the number 2 here is finding a friend, right? Or accountability buddy, accountability partner to go work out at the gym, so maybe you can't afford to, do group fitness classes, but most of you are at universities, right, that you probably have access to the student activity center. So go with a friend if you need that sort of like, okay, like we're going to do this, get it done. And the more that you can take that decision making out of it, of like, yeah, I just go to the gym every night at 8 with my friend, and that's just what we do, the better, right? And again, if you are just a person that, and you might have issues, right? I mean, some of us, might have physical issues that it's harder to do certain things. So again, figuring out what you can do, right? So maybe you don't run necessarily, but maybe you can get on the elliptical, right? I'm going to put it out there, sweating, okay? Actually breaking a sweat. And you could actually break a sweat, do a few rounds of like 10 squats or 10 push-ups, even on your knees, and just, do that. And you'll find that, you can get yourself sweating pretty easily, right? And you don't actually have to go to the gym and make it a big deal. So, breaking that sweat, get the blood moving. That's really what I'm about, because you just feel better. You feel better when you do that. It's good for your head. This, however, here's my other plug, is, in my opinion, the very best habit. And honestly, I really have grown to feel this even more so in recent years, is if I can encourage students to experiment with meditation, I feel like that is going to have the most, just the biggest impact in their life, honestly. And I am by no means any expert in it. And I only recently, over the last couple of years, have been able to develop my own pretty consistent meditation practice. And again, Google the research, it's more mainstream. Again, back in the day when I started with yoga and meditation with the scholars, I felt guilty. John Kabat-Zinn's work, he's a scientist. He started the stress reduction clinic in Boston. And he is really helping it to become mainstream, right? But I sort of used him as like, well, look at what he's doing. This is why we need to teach our students these really important tools, because this is how it can help them, right? And so the thing of it is like, again, using myself as an example, if you were to say, Lynn, you're going to meditate every morning before, you get your day going, it just wasn't happening. And it was partly my house, I think. I just, I'm like, I sit down and then I'm like, I'm looking at the floor and I'm like, oh, that's really dirty. Or like, the kids, I'm like, are the kids up, and it just wasn't working. And so my friend, who's a meditation teacher at one of our awesome local yoga studios, started this thing where she's like, I'm just going to be at the studio. It started Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7 a.m. If anyone wants to come and sit with me for half an hour, it's like a half an hour. Because I had some exposure to meditation just through like yoga, because yoga is really a moving meditation, and it is the key to life. I used to always say that. But honestly, it's like anything, the more you do it, the easier it gets. And even though half an hour is a lot, I've got a couple of scholars right now. This is my challenge to them, is just to sit for 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes. You could start with a minute. I've got a good friend who's doing mindfulness at the elementary school. We've got a 9-year-old, Ben. And Laura comes in and is teaching mindfulness to the 9-year-olds, right? How cool is that? And like helping them, giving them tools to help them sleep better at night and to calm themselves when they might feel agitated during the day in their classrooms. Like, that is cutting edge. I'm so excited for that work. And I love that, my son is exposed to that. So again, the only way that I was really able to do this is by having some accountability with other people, finding other people for support, and just experimenting for myself, right? There's so many apps out there that would be great. Headspace is a good one. One that I've been working with a group of PhD students is called Simple Habit. We did the 31-day challenge that's free. Just, find that, easy to find. I use Insight Timer, not so much for their guided meditations, but just for the timer itself. And it's really cool if you're into, this is another key thing with habits is tracking yourself, right? So Habit Streak is actually an app that I use. I set my key habits that I want to work on, and I can keep track of those. But within the Insight timer, it'll keep track, obviously, of how much time you're meditating, and that's cool. And then you can see other people that are meditating. So this morning, I think there was 8,000-ish other people meditating, and then it's just kind of a cool thing. Again, community is a big key. So some of you already might have meditation practices, and that is so awesome. Help your friends get them as well, okay? But honestly, just for myself, experimenting with this and being consistent, I still can't do it on the weekends, which is interesting because, again, I don't have my routine of going to the studio and sitting with someone else, okay? So it's hard. But still, even the Monday to Friday doing the meditation, I find myself, we've got one of those busy main drag streets, a lot of traffic or whatever. And people coming in, and it can be stressful to drive on, just as an example. And I'll find myself just breathing, kind of an audible breath. They call it ujjayi breathing in yoga. And using using this as a tool in my daily life to sort of steady myself. And I'm just whatever, it's fine. I can see, I'm thinking of our scholars, taking the GRE in the summer, or, certainly that's an important test, or really any of your tests or any stressful situation. I've been in hard conversations with people, and I just find myself naturally using my breath more as an anchor to get through, and just, again, that foundation of strength. I just feel like this particular habit is just one that, I don't know, it just has unlimited potential. So try it. I mentioned a couple of apps. Okay. How do you actually do meditation? Again, I'm no expert. I've proudly led a group of, every summer I present for McNair Scholars, and I've led them in a group meditation, just a 3-minute. There was 60 students. I was super nervous, but I did it anyway. So honestly, you can totally do guided if that's more your speed. But I think the simplest thing is to just sit your butt down, and ideally, you want your hips higher than your knees, right? Just sit on the floor, get some blankets so that your hips can be higher, and you just want to, you can have your hands just open to kind of be more receptive or grounded on your thighs. And you want to try to sit upright, okay? So not so that you're totally uncomfortable. Really, you could go against a wall, but honestly, you should just try to, kind of get into the routine of just kind of sitting where you're comfortably tall. And close your eyes if that feels comfortable, or have a soft gaze and just breathe. Okay. You can, if you don't want to use an actual app, just set a timer on your phone and just breathe. And I would start with 5 minutes, because I think that 5 minutes is doable. And the idea is to essentially, your head, that ticker tape of constant flow of thoughts going through, right, is going to be there. And students are Lynn, I can't meditate because I can't turn my head off. Well, it's not really about turning your head off. Okay, wish you could do that, right? But it's more just allowing those thoughts to be there, but not attaching to them. Okay, so they're always going to be there. And it's amazing, again, like anything, when you're consistent and you're building your muscle, right? Your muscle of breath and mind and being present, essentially. Some days are better than others, but when I have a good meditation day, I'm totally in the zone, right? And it's still, I might fall into going through my to-do list, or thinking of oh, I got to send that email, or I got to send this text or whatever. But then I can recognize that I'm doing that, and then simply let it go, right? Let it go, and then just bring yourself back. One teacher that I heard, she described it as if you have a puppy, right? So you have the puppy on the leash, and the puppy's going over there, and you just gently, tug on the leash and pull the puppy back, right? So that's your mind. It's going to go all these places, and then you just gently bring it back. And be okay. And even if you have a total crappy session, and you're oh my gosh, my knee was bouncing, and I'm my back hurt, and I'm stressed because I'm thinking about whatever, do it anyway. Okay. Do it anyway. Try to do it at the same time every day. Do 5 minutes. One of the things I'm going to ask you here as we wrap up is I want to know how you're doing. Okay. I want to hear how you're doing, and I would love to be part of your journey in terms of experimenting with this idea of meditation. Okay. Seriously, like I sincerely want to know, because I really do think it's such a great thing. Okay. Those are my 2 cents on meditation. So finally, I just want to conclude with another little challenge piece for you is on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, so I'd like you to rate yourself, scale of 1 to 10. How are you doing in our baseline categories? Okay, so in terms of eating, give yourself a 1 to 10, 1 being you're just eating fast food nonstop. 10, you're doing amazing. Think about where you're at with that. Okay. And write it down if you can. Let's see. I think that, I'm a sugar person. And so that's something that I struggle with. I'm like good during the day, and then like I'll still eat a bunch of crap at night. So that's my thing. I'm going to say I'm like really at a 6 for eating. The other thing too is, these small habits that we can fall in and out of too. I have this habit now of eating an English muffin, and I try to get the double protein ones, but I put butter and cinnamon sugar on it. And this is something that goes way back to my childhood. Mom used to always do like cinnamon toast for us, and I love it. But I'm like, Lynn, that's really not good. It doesn't hold me. And I know I do my eggs too, and I do coffee. But honestly, like if I had, I can get in this routine of like making English or egg muffins that's another really good one for breakfast. And so that is like egg, and usually I put sausage in there, a little spinach. And that's just, it gives me better energy for like when I go to work out at noon, because I've had a better breakfast. But I can't break this cycle right now of eating my buttery, cinnamon, sugary English muffin. That tastes really good. Anyway, okay, so sleep. Let's talk about sleep. Where are you at? Rate yourself. Let's see. How would I rate myself? Again, I'm going to say about a 6-ish, because weekends, I'm not consistent in weekends. I tend to sleep too much. And whether it's a long nap or just sleeping in. And I know that, when you sleep too much, you can feel like kind of have that brain fog going. And so that's not a good thing either. So that's something that I need to, so it's not so much that I'm always staying up late. I mean, if it, I will do that from time to time, but I'm guessing that your problem is that you're not sleeping enough. Although I will say that more recently, our newer group of students, I feel like several of them are like, I sleep too much too. Like they're, doing a lot of naps and things like that. So, okay, exercise, moving your body, scale of 1 to 10, where you're at. I do CrossFit 3 times a week. I do yoga at least once a week. On the weekends when I don't have that routine of like going to the gym, we live out in the country a little bit, and ideally it is getting a little bit more warm here in Michigan. And so ideally I'd like to do a little run. Kind of just call myself a trotter. I'm not really a runner. I like to get out in nature. But again, self-motivation, getting in the routine, not having to make a decision about it. I'm not super good about that. So even though I feel like I'm decent, I'll say an 8 for myself. So, okay. So do you have your stuff down, in terms of where you're at? Okay. And so here is my invitation / challenge / you better do this, is what are you willing to commit to? Okay. I want you to pick something, okay, and don't make it super big and don't make it super hard. Do something that's reasonable, that's something that you'd like to work on. So I would suggest going, within these baseline categories, okay, of maybe you want to start eating a little better, maybe you start getting a little more sleep, maybe you want to do a little more exercise, okay, so pick something that you're going to work on for the next 30 days, okay, and I want you to write it down. Okay. And I want you to write it down in the form of an affirmation. Okay. So what I mean by that is, and let's just take working out 3 times a week. Write it like I am working out 3 times a week with my friend Autumn at the SAC on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 4 o'clock, and I am just feeling amazing. I'm feeling much more tone, and I'm feeling much more relaxed in the evening. Really like make it juicy, right? You know, the more details, the better, okay? But write it as if it's already happening, okay? So maybe you're not working out 3 days a week, but it's possible. You can absolutely make that part of your schedule, okay? If you decide, find your friend, okay, and make it happen, okay? Non-negotiable. Happens no matter what, because you know that it's important, okay? And you're going to tell a friend. You're going to tell a friend, and you're going to, okay, promise me, okay? Tell a friend this is your self-care goal that you're working on for the next 3 days, okay? And I want to know about it, okay? I want to know about it. I'm going to tell you how you can hit me up here just as we're concluding. But quick tips, do things in the spirit of experimentation, okay? You're just going to try it. Maybe it's not going to work, okay? It's probably going to take a bunch of times like for you to like, you know, get into the routine of developing a habit that's going to stick, all right? And that's okay. So if you're just like, oh, I just, you know, be a scientist and just be like, I wonder if I did this, like what would happen, okay? And again, instead of making these radical changes of like, you know, I'm never having sugar again and, you know, I'm going to eat perfectly. No. Okay, that's only going to set you up for failure. So small shifts, okay? I love the just a smidge, right? Think of it like that, okay? You're just going to eat a smidge better, right? So maybe, you know, okay, this will be, I'm just thinking of my own, you know, I can't talk. I'm thinking of myself again. What can I do? I'm gonna say this, that 1 day a week, I am not gonna have my English muffin, which already makes me a little nervous, but I'm doing this not for you, but with you. And I'm gonna have a better breakfast choice, okay, at least 1 day a week. Okay, that I'm putting that out there. So just a smidge better. Okay, so I'm not saying every day of the week I'm not having my English muffin because I like my English muffin. Here's the thing though, is that sometimes when you're talking about how do I take better care of myself, how do I do better at health and wellness, right? When you've got all this stuff going, sometimes it really does take a whole reconsideration of like where you're at in terms of your goals, in terms of your priorities. You know, we're all probably doing too much, okay? And that's, I think, just part of society and our culture and the pressures. And again, just using this example of like having to take so many credits just to be able to graduate in 4 years, which is ridiculous. And then, you know, working insane amount of hours to even pay for college and all of that that goes along with that is ridiculous. And so some of those realities are just realities, but maybe it means like, you know what, I don't want to kill myself and I'm going to maybe do less credits, okay? Because I know that I need to do that for my sanity. So that's what I really mean by like, you know, sometimes it really takes some hard decisions. Or maybe there's some people in your life that, you know, or certain things that are just no longer serving you, or, you know, people that you might still care about, but their drama, man, is just bringing you down. And like, is there ways that you can kind of be like, all right, I need to make some choices here where, you know, not necessarily cut them out, but like just, you know, be less around, you know, so that you are less apt to kind of get drawn into that and sucked in, and, you know, your energy and all of that, so that you can really focus on what you want to do and what you know that you need to do in order to feel good and be optimal, right? Be happy, be doing good work, and just feel good. So again, this whole idea of paying attention, taking pause through your day. How are you feeling? How are you feeling throughout your day? How do you feel on a daily basis? And then trying to like figure out choices that are going to make yourself feel better, and just adjust, right? Adjust as needed. Only you know what you truly need, right? Only you do. Okay. So building this foundation now will only serve you going forward, right? And so you can weather any storm, okay, and just thrive as you're going through, right? Not every day is going to be great, okay, but you get in this flow, and you are just going to be more awesome than you already are, right? So, and again, it's really about feeling good. Okay. These are my core desired feelings. I thought I'd share them with you. This is part of a process called desire mapping that Danielle Laporte created. I just love it because essentially it's a way of thinking about setting goals based on how you want to feel. And since I'm kind of all about how you're feeling, instead of just setting arbitrary goals, you think of it in terms of, using myself here, is I want to feel strong. I want to feel beautiful. I want to feel at ease and in the zone. I definitely want to feel connected. That's a big one for me. And I want to feel light. And light, can really be so many things. I want to feel light in my body. So like eating well and working out makes me feel light, but then also just kind of connecting and like helping people and like supporting my family, that makes me feel light, right? I'm sharing my light. So just thought I would put that in there. So I'm so happy that you took the time to hook in on this. I really honestly just want to spread this message far and wide because it's okay and necessary to start prioritizing yourself so that you can do the things that you want to do. Creating that foundation of strength for yourself, right? Starting to pay attention, experimenting with different things, figuring out what works, right? And then just building those habits, right? And figuring that out along the way so that you can actually thrive. So I would love for you to, one of the things that I'm doing is I basically created a fresh blog because I wanted to just start fresh. And so I'm at createyourdailyflow.com. If you want to sign up for some email updates, feel free to do that. I'm going to, hopefully be posting on a regular basis and doing, more videos related to habit building and just some of the things that we talked about. I'm also on Instagram at createyourdailyflow. Hit me up and follow me there if you're into Instagram. And final challenge is, like I said, I really, really sincerely do want to know who you are, who's listening, who's hooking in. Tell a friend about this video, share it. I'm just putting it out there, and it does make me a little nervous, but you know what? I just need to do this because I feel, like I said, this is like my thing. This is my passion. I need to do this because whenever I have these conversations with students, and they are having these even small ahas about oh yeah, I really do need to think about this in a different way. It just makes me so happy because I don't know, that's just my thing. So if you are on Instagram, I also have my personal account. You can tag me at Lynn Marie Curry. I don't really get Twitter, okay, but people are on it. So I'm trying to experiment more with that. So I'm on Twitter at Lynn Marie Curry. You can tag me there if you're a Twitter person. Facebook, you can find me at Lynn Curry. And if you do post some updates, hashtag it, look at me all hashtag create your daily flow. Okay, so then I can see what you guys are all up to. Would love it. Thank you. And I hope that you found some value in this and that you found it helpful, and keep me posted. Okay, to be continued. Thanks. Bye. All right. Stopping my thing. Stop.